I find myself in I've written so much now, and I have a library of scripts. Listen, in Hollywood, in LA, everybody has written a screenplay. You're not special if you've written a screenplay. My mailman has written 4 screenplays, right? Like, you're not special at all. But at some point, I've written so much now that when someone says, says like, oh, I just heard that so-and-so is looking for this kind of a script, I can go, oh, I have that. We should talk. Not, oh, I could write that. No, oh, I've got something that might work for that. I can just, it's just because it's like I created the opportunities for myself by working as hard as I have for as long as I have.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. When an author writes a book, we want people to read it. And then there are authors that write a book and stories, and then other people want to put it on a film. And you're like, wait, what? Yeah. And that's my guest today. Joe's here. And we're going to be talking about his journey, how a lunch date turned into a great opportunity, sitting next to somebody. And I'm really excited to have Joe here. You're going to love the stories, the connections, and what can happen when you put pen to paper. Joe, welcome to the podcast. Nice to have you here.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
All right. Okay, so let everybody know first, Joe, where are you in this great big world of ours?
I live in Los Angeles. I'm right smack dab in the middle of Hollywood, California.
Excellent. And now you're an author, a writer. Kind of what came first for you?
I mean, well, primarily these days I'm a screenwriter, but my life has always sort of been about storytelling. I'm not sure. Maybe I just took a long route to where I'm at now, but I started out as an actor. And so all the way back in high school, we're going 30 years back now. It was just something that I felt accepted by the community of like people in my like drama club in high school, and I excelled at it. And that feels good. When people tell you you're good at something, you want to do more of it. So I followed that dream and then eventually became a touring theater actor out in New York. And while I was sort of on the road between cities, I started to write. I got back to New York after a show, and I was able to use a screenplay to I didn't get that sold, but I was able to use it as a sample to write somebody else's screenplay. And as soon as I wrote as soon as I got hired for that job, my whole world changed. And I thought, oh man, I was never supposed to be an actor. This was always the route. So I started on that journey, and I've been doing that since like 2003, 2004. So over 20 years.
Wow. Okay. So like what kind of big projects, what kind of small projects have you been a part of?
No, it's in indie stuff for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
It's funny. Sometimes you're embarrassed by things but not because you're embarrassed by the work, but because people listen, if I go to Thanksgiving dinner with my family and I'm not working with Brad Pitt, they don't really understand what I do. Right? Like, so that's right. Not been my life. But like, for example, if you're familiar with the Resident Evil franchise, I wrote a movie for them, but I wrote one of their animated movies, which almost no one knows about. So when people say to me like, oh my God, I see you wrote Resident Evil, I have to immediately be like, no, I'm not as cool as you think. I did not write a Mila Jovovich movie. Like I wrote something you probably have never heard of, Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, independent stuff. Yeah.
Well, and that's encouraging, because I think a lot of people have this kind of thought that if you don't write big movies, you don't write big shows, there's really not a lot of room for you. There's a lot of amazing things that you can write for, and a lot of opportunities that come to you, right? Yeah. Just by being out there and writing and working with these projects.
I think you really have to stick to it. And I will admit, the way our industry works now, I hate saying this, but it's much harder to have a career because it's more of a gig-based society. Yeah. Right. So you're lucky to get, I'm lucky when I get just enough work to like keep me alive. Right. So I'm a jobbing writer. I'm not super well known. I'm just out here doing my best, trying to make it.
I was listening to Jason Bateman being interviewed, and he was saying every movie, every show, it's like you get hired, you do the thing, and then you're basically fired, and you move on to the next one. You start all over again.
It's true.
And that security is not there as much anymore.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you really have to learn, the responsibility of, much harder when you're younger, but the responsibility of getting work that pays fairly well if you're in the right spot, but then you don't have another job for 2 years. So you have to make that one check like last that
on and on.
long time. Yeah.
How different is it for writers in that context as well then?
Yeah, I mean it's the same. Like, we're not making the actor salaries. I
Yeah,
think the one thing that screenwriters have going for them. This is sort of like a blessing and a curse, is that, some of the first people to get paid on a movie or a TV show are the writers, but a vast majority of things that people are hired to write don't ever make it to the screen, right?
right.
So I've made a lot of my living on things that don't get made because they need to have the script in order to go through development. And then 90% of the projects die before they ever make it
Yeah.
to the screen because it costs so much money to make.
The difference between a screenplay and your approach to writing a novel,
Yeah.
how different is that?
It's definitely a different art form. It's a different thing. And maybe I don't know. I feel like you're going to get me in trouble, I think. I think, for me, a story is a story. You're going to hit the right
Yeah,
points. You got to you got to find what the audiences want, what a character's arc is. But yeah, they're different things. The screenplay is a blueprint for a movie, right?
right. Yeah,
You are literally just trying to inform all the other incredible artists on the film what you want your story to be, and that's informing the costumer and the director and the cinematographer and the prop
yeah,
person, and
yeah.
and then you get to rely on the score and the lighting and all of those things. So like that's a lot of help. And with the novel, you don't have that. With the novel, you're trying to do all of those people's jobs so that the reader can imagine it in their brain as they're going along.
Yeah. So, and I'm a complete novice here, so excuse my inability to explain this maybe properly. But for my perception, be a screenplay would be scene opens as you come down the hill into a small town. It's fall, and the fall fair is happening downtown, and you're explaining all this stuff
Correct.
so that the scene can be created
Correct.
and
Yeah.
recreated on
Yeah.
film, compared to a novel where you can just get into the story. You don't have to do all of that kind of stuff, but you still need to know that, I think,
Right.
as a writer, right?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences is that in a screenplay, you're literally not writing anything that can't be seen on the screen.
Okay.
You're never
Okay.
writing the actor's thoughts or how they're feeling emotionally. Like, those things have to be, because in the end, in the final product, if you can't see it or hear it, then it doesn't exist. So putting it in the screenplay is pointless. Whereas in the novel, we can dive in as far as we want. We can dive into someone's head and talk about a trauma they felt when they were 5 years old. Yeah, so that you really can dive deep, deep, deep into feelings and emotions and really describe how those things need to be felt in a novel.
So, from your perspective, is it a little bit easier to navigate writing a screenplay than it is to write a novel? Is there any difference there?
I wouldn't say easier. I'm not going to say one's
Okay.
harder or easier. I will say that
Okay.
my preference, if I'm being totally honest, my preference is the screenplay.
Okay.
Maybe because I have done it more, possibly.
Okay.
But also, I really enjoy that collaborative effort. Like, I love that, trying to create something with others, right? And when you watch the credits for a movie, there could be 500-600 people on that list,
I
right?
know.
And
Yeah.
all of them are just as important as the next. And so that excites me. I like being part of a team. And while the writing of the screenplay can be a little bit solitary,
Yeah.
still going to be getting notes from a director and producers and development people, and really crafting something that together can be the best it can possibly be.
Okay. Talk about some of the people that have inspired you in the past. I see on your website one specific letter from
yeah.
James D. Watson. Can you explain that particular story? Because it's on your
Yeah.
website, so it's substantial. I'd like to know more about this.
Yeah, well, I think that it really, what I had said before about sort of like finding a group of people that accepted me in high school really sort of put me on the journey. But the thing that sort of like jump started it for me was, I was 19 or 20. I was doing touring theater. And when I got back to New York, my uncle in New Jersey was a carpenter. So I was like working with him as a carpenter, literally banging shingles onto a roof, in between shows until I could get my next gig and take off. Well, I had written a screenplay on the road, with a friend. Actually, we co-wrote this thing about about a tiny little section of a book called The Double Helix, which was written by James Watson, who Watson and Crick are the co-discoverers of the double helix shape of DNA, and they won the Nobel Prize for it. So they're in all of our history books.
Yeah.
And I was inspired by something in it that talked about how like the detriment to science is that you can only research things that sell, and the only things that sell are things like ED medication and tanning lotion. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh man, and like this guy wanted to like cure Alzheimer's, and he's stuck like, oh, well, how do I sell it, right? Because in this capitalist world that we live in, what am I supposed to do? So I wrote this whole screenplay, a futuristic thing that I really fell in love with, but I out of naivety of a 20-year-old, I sent it off to his laboratory. He was heading up a laboratory called Cold Springs Harbor, and I was banging nails on a roof, and my cell phone rang. And I answered it, and someone said, please hold for Dr. Watson. No hello, no nothing. And I just froze. Like, what is happening? And Jim got on the phone and was super, super kind and was just like, I got your screenplay. Listen, I don't really know much about screenplays, but I would like to help in any way I can. I'm honored that something I wrote inspired you. He invited me to lunch at his offices at the UN Plaza in New York. Like, I'm talking, as a 20-year-old kid that's just desperate for attention. This was like this was the greatest thing ever. So we had like a few emails, back and forth, or letters, actually mostly letters. He sent me a Christmas present that year, which was a book of his writings. He also hooked me up with a professor that was from Paris, but was doing some time at NYU to help me turn my movie science into slightly more realistic movie science. And listen, that screenplay never went anywhere. I've read it recently. It's totally out of date. Like trying to predict the future for me didn't work because a lot of the things are already aged out. But just being able to touch that little piece of history, like this man who is going to be in the history books forever now, right? He gave me enough attention to make me feel like, okay, I can do something important. All I have to do is put myself out there. And so it was shortly after that I decided, you know what, it's time to move out to LA and really give this thing a crack.
So, like, in our youth, we don't have the filter of, we might have in our 40s, 50s, and 60s where we're like, well, probably not a good idea. I should probably edit this before I send this out. It's like, I'm just going to send it and see what happens.
Right.
And I think in that boldness, it opens opportunity. And I think his response to seeing this, again, not knowing how to read a screenplay, is just the fact that you did this and you reached out to him was enough to catch his eye. Think of how many letters and messages and things this guy would get.
Right.
Yours stood out enough for him to warrant calling you. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I think there's something about the youth too, right? Like if a young person reaches out to me about wanting help at the beginning of their career, I'm more willing to help that person, right? Because like there's something about being my age. If I approach someone now and they're like, "What? You haven't made it yourself yet? You can't do it for yourself? Who are you? Like, why do I need to help you?" But like, yeah, you want to pass it off to the younger generation. You want people to have doors opened. If you can open a door for someone, that's the best gift you can give anyone.
So you keep writing, you keep moving forward from there. You're now in LA. You're in a place where a lot of opportunities can happen because you're geographically in the right spot.
Yeah, true.
What other doors opened for you early when you first moved out to LA?
Well, I feels like there's two routes you can take it when you're coming to Hollywood. One is you can sort of go like the assistant route, right? And you become like a writer's assistant or a PA on set, and then you sort of slowly move into a writer's room, if you can, on television or, that way. Or you can just start making your own stuff. So I went that route and used whatever I could. So like I made one movie for just like the change I found in my couch, right? It's terrible. I don't even count it on my resume anymore, but it was a learning experience. And then I went from there to start making indie feature films and learning, not only the production process, but the distribution process. I was able to scrounge together. I got an ex NBA player to give me a little bit of cash to get a movie. There was a man named Matt Dallas, an incredible actor who was on a hit TV show back in the day, who just went to the same high school as I did. And because of that connection, I was able to convince him to be in my little indie movie. And that helped get me some buzz in sci-fi conventions and things like that, because he was on a sci-fi show. So like just piecing it together, like and making those indie films, trying to do film festivals and meeting people there. Ultimately, that eventually led me to, people wanting me to write their stuff. And when I started writing other people's things, that got me the right credentials to get into the Writers Guild.
Yep.
And that changed things again for me. That's like it's like graduating into being like an adult, in the industry. So I got into the Writers Guild, and as things rolled on, I eventually met an actor named Blair Underwood, and now we've partnered up on a handful of things, and just having not only having someone of Blair's caliber give me any attention at all, right? That helped immensely. But he's also been just an incredible creative partner, right? So we've worked together on multiple things now, including this book.
Now, that meeting and connection with Blair happened from a very unique situation,
Yeah.
right? You were at some event and you almost didn't go. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. I was at like, it was a holiday dinner at a friend's house, and it was like my family travels quite a bit, so they were out of town and invited me to this holiday thing, and as someone who works sort of in indie films, when people ask you like, oh, well, what do you do? Oh, you're a screenwriter. What have you done anything I know? The answer is almost always no, which is embarrassing. So I don't want to I never really want to talk about work at an
Yeah.
event like that. But I understand that to other people who are maybe not in the industry, what I do for a job is exciting to them. So
Right.
I got into this conversation with a man and named Rob, and he told me, he was very excited about it. He had been working on trying to write a TV show. He was not necessarily in the industry. He had worked his whole life in sort of children protective services,
Oh,
and that's what his script was about. And he eventually asked me, like, can you help me with this? And there was a whole rigmarole. It's like, like I can give you notes on it, I guess, if you want, and if you rewrite it. Ultimately, when it was all done, he did do the rewrites.
yeah.
His script I thought was really good. And he told me, like, just in passing, he's like, okay, well, now I'm going to give it to Blair. And I was like, who's Blair? And he goes, oh, well, I went to college with Blair Underwood, and he's really interested in the project. And I was like, what is going on? So
Wait.
through that, I was like, let's see
Yeah.
how we can push this forward. So I got a meeting in my manager's office. Blair came by. Rob was there. Like, how can we get this show off the ground? But Blair wanted to know, who is this guy that's all of a sudden like giving any notes at all to this project that I like? How is he
Yeah.
even worthy? So he wanted a sample of my writing. I sent him a sample, which was a script that my book is based on now, like fast forward, right? So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
script, Blair, at the end of the meeting, Blair pulled me aside and was just like, hey, man, like, I don't know how it's about a black neighborhood in Detroit that has been knocked down for many, many decades.
Yeah.
And he was like, how do you even know about this as some white boy in Hollywood? Like, we need to talk further. And the next week we went to breakfast and we just hit it off. By the end of that one meal, he was attached to 4, 5, 6 different things that I was doing. And since we've got a bunch of things happening that are not, it come to fruition yet, but we
Yeah.
did a movie together, which is it's finished, but not out yet. That stars him and Sarah Silverman and Alfre Woodard, that he directed and I wrote and produced. And then as we tried to get this TV show made, the one about the Black Bottom, the neighborhood in Detroit, we're just sort of getting told no everywhere because it was a period piece, right? It takes place in the 30s, so it's
Yeah.
super expensive to get done. And Blair was doing a show on Broadway in 2020 called A Soldier's Play, and a publisher from HarperCollins came to see his show and sort of said, hey, if you've got any good ideas that would make a good novel, like, bring them my way. So Blair called me and said, how quick can you get out to New York? Let's pitch them the TV show and see if we can get a book deal. I'd written prose on my own, but I never had anything published. So they asked me if I could write a few chapters and sort of like a marketing plan, like why it would be marketable. And in the end, after some negotiation, it turned into a 2-book deal. So first book is out now, Sins of Survivors, and the second book actually comes out next summer. And now listen, if we're good enough, we'll turn around and try to sell it back to Hollywood now, right?
Okay, so we have a lot of authors that are listening to the show, writers, and they're brand new to this. they're hearing this story and it sounds great. Like it's like it's like celebration at the end of a long marathon, and everyone's cheering and there's balloons and all that stuff. They're starting at the beginning of the race right now, going, how do I get to the point where I put myself in the right place at the right time?
Yeah.
As you look back to all the randomness of everything that's happened in the past, do you see some kind of collective connecting tissue between all of these different events that kind of tie into all these things?
I do, and it's
Okay.
but I'll give it. You cannot see the road behind you until you've traveled it.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I believe that if I did not have that, the naivety that we talked about earlier about sending
Yeah.
Dr. Watson a script, right? Like if I didn't have that, if I didn't always think the next project was going to be the one that bought me the house in the hills and allowed me to provide for my family, if I didn't always think the next one was it, I would have quit.
Mm.
And all along that road, everyone is telling me the same thing. Everyone that's before me in line is
Right.
telling me
Yeah,
the same thing. That's not how it works. They're telling me, just keep writing. Just don't get, the only thing you can do is give up, because talent is the baseline. No one actually gives a
Yeah.
crap if you've got talent. They assume that if you're in the room with them, you have to have that. That's the baseline. The rest of it is, are you like, do people want to hang out with you? Like if I'm going to do a movie with you, that means I'm going to be spending 12, 16 hours a day with you, right? Are you fun to hang out with? Are you not mean to people? Like that's a big deal. Are you, a lot of it is not trying to meet the people above you, but meeting the people that are at your
Right.
level,
Yeah.
because you're going to come up with those people. And at some point, someone else is going to get a project and they're going to be like, oh, I need help with this or that. Can you come, move light stands for my short film? Or can you, do you know anybody that can help? Do you know a DP, or who do you use for production insurance? That, and then as people come up together, eventually you're like, oh, we all sort of got here together, and it's not
Right.
someone from the top pulled me up. And so it's hard, because I would have given up if I knew it was going to be this hard. I promise you. And I don't consider myself at that. You talked about the celebration at the end of the marathon. I don't feel that at all.
Yeah.
Listen, I think there's something. If 10 years ago, 20 years ago, Joe was looking at where I'm at now, or seeing what I've accomplished, that guy would have assumed that I had already quote unquote made it.
Yeah.
And I haven't. I still hold a day job.
Right.
I'm able to provide for my family because I manage the apartment building that we live in. And then that means I live here for free, right? I don't pay like the electric bill, like that's taken care of for me, but it's not a salary job, right? So I've got to use the writing to sort of supplement that. But so it's, people think, oh, you're working with celebrities and you've made movies and you've got a book deal at a huge publishing house. Yeah, I do have all those things, but I'm still working the day job. So it's very humbling, I'll be doing a podcast interview about my creative life, right? And then an hour from now, someone's going to call me and say that they need a toilet plunged, right? Like
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's the dichotomy of my life. So I still have so far to go. I still have aspirations. I still have things I want to create. But I'm also proud of what I've accomplished.
That's a great perspective. I like that, Joe. Because I think some people have this grandiose idea of what success looks like.
Yeah.
Success could be just the next project got picked up. Somebody looked at your book. Yeah. Somebody said yes. You sat beside someone at a lunch, and now you're talking to somebody you admire on screen. Like all of those things are just being in the right place and being receptive to those opportunities, and not hiding and hoping somebody comes and finds you. You got to go out there. You got to, live it out there in front of people.
And it's only been in the last few years, maybe a little more than a few years, it's that I've not been embarrassed about it. So much of, especially this sort of like quote unquote Hollywood game, right? It's just BS. And you're always trying to, like, people are trying to hide the fact that they've got a day job, or that they're waiting tables on the side, or tending bar, or driving Uber. Like, everyone wants everyone else to think that they're already successful. And it's just hard. It's like, I don't need to keep that up anymore. Like, I am who I am. I'm proud of what I've got. And I'm just living my life, Do I want more? Yes. Yes, I want more. But now my life is a lot more driven by um it used to be, listen, in my younger days it was, oh man, I like that lifestyle. It seemed so exciting and glitzy and glamorous. And then it became more about, ooh, I just want to work on bigger projects to work with the bigger names. And now it's more about I have stories I want to tell.
Good.
And that feels more legit. It feels like I
Yeah.
finally got to the right thing, and it took me far, far too long to get here.
It's interesting because all those opportunities about working with somebody bigger or bigger projects, those are all out of your control. You
Yeah,
can't make that happen. But a story, you can make that happen.
yeah, I could
You
try.
don't need anybody
Yeah.
for that, right? Yeah.
I find
Okay.
myself in a lot of, I've written so much now, and I have a library of scripts. Listen, in Hollywood, in LA, everybody has written a screenplay. You're not special if you've written a screenplay. My mailman has written 4 screenplays, right? Like you're not
Yeah.
special at all. But at some point, I've written so much now that when someone says, says like, oh, I just heard that so and so is looking for this kind of a script, I can go, oh, I have that. We should talk. Not, oh, I could write that. No,
Hmm.
oh, I've got something that might work for that. I can just, yeah. It's just because it's like I created the opportunities for myself
Yeah.
by working as hard as I have for as long as I have.
For the readers, let's talk about the book and kind of where we're going as a reader. Can you kind of unpack for us maybe kind of your love letter to a reader? Like what can we expect from your book? Where does it take us?
Yeah, I fell madly in love with the true history of this neighborhood called Black Bottom in Detroit that
Hmm.
basically doesn't exist anymore. It was a vibrant black community um, created by redlining, the tragedy of telling black people where they were not allowed to live.
Yeah.
And when you delete all the places you're not allowed to live, there's only like little tiny bubbles of places that you can go. And so one of those neighborhoods was this area called Black Bottom, and they weren't given the benefits of white society, right? The city services weren't there. Water could turn off any time of day or night.
Hmm.
Sewer systems, nobody cared about this neighborhood. And what a good thing came out of it. The good thing was black people are forced into this area, and they realize, well, if no one's going to do it for us, right? I can't rely on the city to help us with these normal things that cities should take care of, right? We're going to have to do it ourselves. So no one's here to pick up the trash. We're going to pick up our own trash. No one's here to take care of grandma's body when she passes. All right, we're going to get our own undertaker. I've got a dispute with my neighbor. I guess we're going to have our own lawyers. And then shopkeepers and all the elements of society came together, and they created this thing that not only made the people in their community proud and realize this inner power of like, oh wow, we can do this. We are strong and we can do anything we want. But it also served the purpose of scaring the hell out of white people
Hmm.
who thought that they were trash and couldn't do it either.
Yeah.
Um, and then what they started doing in this neighborhood, this Black Bottom, there's a little neighborhood right next to it, right north of it, called Paradise Valley, which is sort of the entertainment district kind of the black neighborhood. But they had jazz clubs and nightclubs and all of the biggest names of the era, the Fats Wallers and the Billie Holidays and the
Yeah.
Ella Fitzgeralds. They were all coming to this place because they were doing something special that wasn't happening in the rest of the United States yet, which was they were allowing mixed race audiences to come and watch black music.
Yeah.
In other places, it was a white audience would come in first, the white audience would file out, and then the black audience would file in. And because of that, these big, crazy big artists were coming. And out of that, really, even though they knocked Black Bottom down, now you've got music in the blood of Detroit. And from this jazz scene grew Motown and
Right.
everything that we know that Detroit is now. So that's the history I fell in love with, and that's the backbone of this book. But I didn't write a history book, right? I don't believe in
Right.
that. I believe in the Mary Poppins form of storytelling, which is a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down. So that history is
Mm.
the medicine, and I want people to learn about it. But the sugar is we created this fictional family called the Carters. And it's two brothers, Ben and Jasper, who travel north out of Alabama after a personal tragedy hits their family. And they get to Detroit to try to make something of their lives. And over decades, they build themselves a little empire, a dynasty inside Black Bottom. They've done some truly horrible things through prohibition and crime, and they've fought to get where they're at. But now they're trying to go clean, and they own businesses. They own a dry cleaner, and they own their own little nightclub, and they own a grocer and a print shop. And the older brother has always borne the burden of being the family patriarch. He worked backbreaking jobs to put his younger brother through college, and make sure he had time for his studies. And now they have two different experiences. The older brother knows you have to fight and claw, and sometimes it gets ugly and muddy and bloody, but we're going to make sure our family survives. Whereas the younger brother starts going, well, look at all the things that we've achieved. We could use the power that we've gained to pull our family up, our whole community up, our whole race up.
Yeah.
The brothers start to butt heads because the older brother thinks like, yeah, you can try all that, but if we fail and our family gets hurt because of it, we've got a lot to lose, and they won't allow that. So two different brothers born out of the same experiences that have two very differing ways that they want to sort of tackle the future. And it gets pretty exciting. Crime and forbidden lustful relationships and backroom deals. And yeah, it's just a massive family drama. It's everything that the Godfather is. Like, the Godfather is about the mob, and it's about the good food, and it's about, that Italian culture, but really it's about family. And that's what Sins of Survivors is about. It's about family.
Do you have any ties or connection to that part of Detroit at all?
So it's a loose one, but I grab it hard. But my family, obviously European, I'm a white guy, right? They came into America through Windsor. So they, because they were part of the Commonwealth, they were able to get into Canada much easier. So when they got to Canada, they came over here in the 1904s when they sort of got to Canada. And they were going back and forth to be in the vaudeville circuit in America. And the border, the place that you would actually enter Detroit is right next to, it's part of Black Bottom. So in the same time that my great grandparents were going back and forth, they were traveling through Black Bottom. And so when I'm there in Detroit and thinking about it, I feel like, okay, there is a piece of me here. There's something about my roots that, like, to believe that my white ancestor was walking through this incredible neighborhood of Black Bottom. He was there, and now I'm there too. It means something special to me. I don't know how a reader feels about that, but like when I was doing the research for the book, this place is not, it's a freeway now. I would go to an address of an important place that I was writing about, and I would go right up to the like chain link fence next to the freeway and sort of just stand there and think, what does this place smell like? What's the humidity in this month versus 2 months from now? How far would it take me to walk from here to point B? And by the time I get to that place, how sweaty am I if I'm wearing a 3-piece suit, right? Like those things that make life feel real. I was doing a lot of that while I was there studying.
Yeah, that's really close to where I am too. So I'm thrilled by that. I just had an author on who came from Africa area to Detroit, Michigan. He just came over as an immigrant, and he wrote a book about his journey about coming to this part of the world. He specifically picked Detroit. Yeah. So I'm like, this is really interesting. I've just had this conversation a few days ago, and now I'm here with you.
I mean, Detroit was a magnet for people from the Great Migration, right? And because it was a magnet, and it sort of starts, listen, people are trying to get better lives for themselves coming out of the South. But Henry Ford was offering $5 a day, no matter your race. And that was attractive. Listen, he's not a saint by any stretch of imagination. The black people were getting the very, very dangerous jobs. They were working long hours. Their jobs were not easy by any means. They were getting but they were still getting paid more than they were getting paid anywhere else.
Right.
So it drew a lot of black people, and because it's got that reputation, it makes sense to me that someone else would think, oh, Detroit is where I should go, right? Like Detroit is the answer to my prayers.
So is this then one of the two
It
books that you're
is,
doing?
yes.
Okay.
This is
Okay, good.
1937.
Okay.
And then the second book, which comes out next year, takes place in 1943. In 1943 is a big year for Detroit because there was racial turmoil that boiled over pretty dramatically that summer.
Okay. Wow. And do we get to carry on with our characters, or do we kind of get some new characters?
Same family,
Okay.
and
All
how
right.
they're involved in that turmoil. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. What are you most proud about when you look back at this book and this first book in the two book series? What stands out to you as like push away from the desk and go, yeah, this is what I really wanted to do in this book?
Yeah. I think one of the things that makes me good at my job, the practice and doing it forever has made me, I believe, good at the actual task, the act of writing. But what makes me good at storytelling is that I have a very fine-tuned an emotional gauge. I tap into other people's emotions pretty easy. And so my family makes fun of me. We could be watching a commercial and they're like, why is dad crying again? Right? Like, because I can tap into that.
Yeah.
When I laugh hard. When I cry hard. And so a lot of the times when you've created it, it's hard you can tell like, did this work? I don't know if I mean, technically maybe it worked, but you're not feeling it because you're so close to it and you have to wait for other people to experience it before you know if it worked. But I know when something that I've done really is hitting the right note when I can be reading it. And then all of a sudden I realize that I'm crying or that I'm feeling an emotion and I've separated myself from the writer, Joe. And now I'm just feeling what the characters are feeling. And there are some moments in this book listen, I've read it many times. I've gone through the editing process and even the audiobook, which Blair reads. I've gone through this story so many times, and there are a number of moments, but one in particular, where one of the children of the Carter brothers sort of loses his adolescence in a moment.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what it is about me. I don't think I have a moment in my life where I lost my adolescence, but there's something about this one moment in the book where this boy loses his boyhood, and and every time I'm through it, I know it's like it just comes over me and I'm weeping, which sounds silly because it's my own work, right? Like I'm almost embarrassed to say it out loud to you, but it makes me feel so proud that I created something that I can say that at the very least it made me feel something. And if it made me feel something, I hope it makes somebody else feel something.
So this side of you that reacts emotionally when you see something or you read something like we were just talking about, are you reacting to something that's happening to somebody else, or are you seeing yourself in that situation and it's happening to you? Yeah,
listen, I think the reason, something that's special about humans is empathy, right?
Yeah.
And I have, you can certainly feel something, but it can be the smallest connections. It doesn't have to be, right? Like, listen, this is about two black men that escaped a lynching in the South,
right?
1937. You could easily write me off and say, what does some, middle-aged white boy in Hollywood, California in 2025 have any experience writing this story at all? And maybe I don't, but it's about brothers, and I have a brother. I have a younger brother, and we're very, very different. And there are things that make me incredibly sad and things that I'm horrified about my relationship with my brother. So there's a lot of that in this story. And as a human, I bring that in, right? I have a son, and as I'm watching him grow up and feeling like I would give him the world, I would literally lay down in front of a car for my son, but also feeling like I'm not done yet. I still have so much I want to accomplish myself. So please don't tell me it's over for me yet. There's a lot of that in the brothers of the book, right? So I think it's, I'm feeling these things, and it can be anything. Listen, it could be science fiction. It could be a vampire, right? Like I'm looking at them, and I mean, I'm not a vampire, but I can feel the emotion they're feeling, the longing of wishing that they could live in the daylight, right? Like there's something there that a human can grasp onto. And I just think I have an overly sensitive gauge, a meter that allows me to do that with others.
Where I live in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, we have the Salem Chapel. So the Salem Chapel was the end of the line for the Underground Railway with Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
This was the final stop
Incredible.
here in Canada for people escaping
Right.
to Canada for freedom. And I was able to go with my wife and another couple and go and sit in the pews of this small little tiny church, very unbecoming. If you walk by it, you wouldn't even think twice about it. But this was built by people seeking freedom, and this was the final stop where they finally found family, community, kind of a little version of Black Bottom here in my city. And to sit in those pews as somebody who was never directly impacted by what happened to these amazing people, but just to sit there and take it in, you just feel that flood come through you. And if those walls and pews could speak,
Absolutely.
you know, you're just like in the place where people finally found their freedom. It's just amazing.
There's really nothing like it, you know. And to sort of piggyback off that, I think, you know, you asked about advice for a writer earlier, but advice for humanity is to just travel.
Yeah.
Travel will make you better at any job that you've got. It will make you better at just being a human. If you just travel, go somewhere that's not your little tiny bubble and see that other people have different experiences and live in a different way, in a different lifestyle than you do. And it opens your brain. It just, all the synapses start firing and the world becomes bigger. Sitting in that pew, like walking the streets of Black Bottom, you know, like it's incredible. It's really incredible.
So the next book's coming out next year. I'm hoping, and well, I can anticipate the answer to this question already. Continue to write, continue to share stories. That's in your plans for the future. Yeah. The name of my show is Living the Next Chapter. So kind of leads into the name of the show. But kind of where are you kind of going post the release of the second book coming up? Like what's kind of active for you in the future that we can anticipate?
So I'm doing a bunch of stuff. I've got a bunch of irons in the fire, right? So I've got this movie coming out at some point called Viral that Blair and I did, which is done. So I'm not really working on it anymore. We're actively pitching the story of the book to production companies and studios, which is fun. But then I've got I've become less of a filmmaker and more of someone who wants to tell stories now. So I started in the theater. I've got a play that I'm desperate to get up somewhere. If anyone listening want to help me get a play on the stage, like I'm ready. But I've got a couple of indie films that I'm ready to rock and roll with, like a bunch of scripts. I'm just out there trying to create. I actually go to my website is gingerbeardfilms.com. On that website, you can see what my top projects that I'm actively pushing into the world right now.
Right.
I'll tell you, I am in a phase right now where I'm not actively writing. Right now, I'm in a stage of actively trying to push out the things I've already written.
Yeah.
But I also I can feel that there's a turmoil building inside me that at some point you just have to drop everything and just write. And that's coming soon, but I'm not quite there.
Actually, we'll have links to your website in the notes, everyone, to go and check out. Thank you for your time today.
Thank
you. I really
you.
appreciate you making time to do this. One more comment, I guess, to the readers for your book. Again, what are you hoping for them to walk away with after reading this book, the first in the 2-part series? But again, what is your big wish for us as a reader?
I feel I just don't want to waste someone's time.
Yeah.
I hope that when someone reads the book, that they close the back cover and they think, "Man, I'm so glad I read this." Mm-hmm. I recognize listen, some people are crazy. They read a book in a day, but the normal person is taking a week, 2 weeks, a month, right? They're reading a little bit before bed or whatever. Someone reading the book means they have given a piece of their life to me, and I don't take that lightly. So I just want people to feel satisfied. And if they learn something about this little piece of forgotten history in the process, then I've won the lottery.
I do love a great audiobook, so to have Blair read me your book, I think that is amazing. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that as well, Joe. It's
a great listen. So I recommend it highly.
Excellent. Joe, thank you so much for being part of the show. Come back for book 2 Like
Yeah.
we can have you back, right? We'll
Please,
celebrate
yeah,
that in
have
the
me.
future.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Everything for Joe in the show notes as always. You know where to go. I'm asking you to please, as a reader, to leave a great review for Joe. I know he'd love to hear your thoughts about the book. Go beyond great book, great author in your review. Bring out some piece of the book that really spoke to you as a reader, so that other people will see that, fall in love with it, and share it with others as well. That's what we can do for our great authors that write for us, is to share our words back. So thank you for that. Joe, thank you so much for being part of the show.
So great. Thank you.
Hey, as we exit the podcast, as we leave out the door, I know the car's running. Somebody's eagerly waiting for you to get out there and go home. As we exit the podcast, I just want to ask, if you have time, I would truly appreciate it. We ask for you to do this for our authors. When you buy your book, we ask you to leave a review. Why? Because it means a lot to the author and it tells other people that the book is great. Now, you don't hear me ask for this very often, so I'm going to do this here because we're friends, right? You and I are friends. I would love a review of this show because it'll tell more people to come and listen to this podcast. So if you have Apple, wherever you're listening, there's probably some way to give a star rating or leave a comment about the show. YouTube, you can always leave comments on YouTube. Every episode's there. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a review, leave a rating, and share this with somebody. That's probably the best way to grow the podcast, is for you to share it. And by listening to the end of the episode, like you're doing right now, tells all the apps this is a good podcast. So thank you for already helping me by listening to this part. But go leave a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And thank you for being part of the podcast family.